if you look at GM, what it essentially is, GM is if you take a union bribe, take a bribe between the government and the union and securitize it and give it an IPO, in other words, that's what GM is. It's a securitized union bribe. I wrote that at the time of the IPO. I had nothing but disdain for it, and the same now. They have exorbitant pension obligations, far exceeding their assets. And the reason why they are one of the leading revenue generating companies in the world, but very unprofitable, is that they have these huge obligations that they've made on their pensions and to the unions. They aren't just having problems with unions in the United States. They're having union problems in Europe and anywhere else where they have manufacturing. Pardon the siren. Everything's okay. This never fails to happen whenever I'm trying to make a video in public. So anyways, it really is a shady thing. I mean, people talk about, they're mad at the investment banking and Wall Street firms because they're quote-unquote greedy and taking advantage of people. And people are upset about the Facebook IPO, but General Motors, I would say, is worse than the Facebook IPO, even though Facebook has lost so much of its market cap since that day. At least Facebook has profits, and they have promise. It's just a higher risk company. You're betting on that. You're betting on a lot of unknowns by paying a pretty big premium to earnings. But they have earnings, and they have promise. With GM, it kind of, in my mind, has an integrity problem. The reason for the IPO escapes me, other than to cause a liquidity event. Now, most IPOs, an investment banker has an obligation to the firm to take good companies public that have promise and sell them. They sell these shares to their clients. So they've got a fiduciary obligation to their clients on the sell side, and then they've got an obligation to their other clients, the company they're taking public, on the investment banking side. So there needs to be a balance. There needs to be promise for both sides. So when you look at General Motors, you had a company that was bailed out by the taxpayer, that went bankrupt, that had all these problems. So they wiped out some debts, but they still came back with the same problems. I don't see much promise other than just taking them public for the sake of creating a liquidity event. I don't see how you can justify the other part of the equation as a member of the investment banking team, whether you are the underwriter or the co-underwriter or a part of the selling group. Wall Street firms, they're all over that red herring. I could see that they were generating fees by taking part in that, but how they could justify selling that to their client is a whole different story. I mean, if they had, why were they entitled to go public just like that out of bankruptcy? I mean, it's not like the investment banking firm could just say that this was a great company that they should be selling to their clients, put in their portfolios. I mean, maybe if they had stayed private and proven themselves in the market for a few years or a decade, then they could justify selling this to their client. But whenever you have a venture capital firm or a hedge fund that buys companies, they do it not to be long-term owners, but to create a liquidity event. And that's what happened here, is you had the government take a company and wipe out some of the people, the debt holders, that really legally should have had their money, but you saved the union people, and you didn't change the key problem. And that's what you have. You have a turd of a stock, and And you've got this company trying to make it work. Yeah, I'll give them this. Their cars look better. Back when I was trashing them, if you read my pieces from back in 2000, I very much ridiculed their designers, and they've come a long way since then. But you have to be profitable. So this was a rotten piece of garbage from the beginning. It's a securitized union bribe. There's no way around it. There's no way that this company should have been taken public at the juncture it was immediately. You don't get to go public just because. There needs to be a reason that you can justify to your clients, and that did not exist yet. Just because you call yourself GM, you came out of bankruptcy, you're a different company, now different shareholders. Just because your name is GM doesn't give you an inherent right to an IPO. That was government bullcrap fleecing shareholders along with these investment banking firms who were selling this garbage to their clients. That's what's happening here. That's what happened. So it's just a matter of time before the piece of garbage goes bankrupt again. Although they are selling some of their pension obligations. I saw that they they transferred some of their pension obligations, about 28 million in pension obligations, salaried employees, to an annuity, but it cost the company $4 billion of their assets. I wonder who got that commission. I wonder who got that commission to sell that annuity. I bet you the broker was connected to Obama somehow. Somebody ought to do an investigation. And they're looking to potentially do some more of those deals. So stay tuned. We know how this is going to end, but it could be entertaining on the way. Thank you for joining me. Scott Ryan.